everybody, and welcome into a special edition here at the Voice of College Football, specifically the SEC channel. You can join me and my boy Tyler breaking down last week games and previewing the upcoming week games on Tuesday, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time over on the Voice of College Football SEC channel. So go over there and subscribe there as well. Also, if it's more of your flavor, go over to the Texas channel. Catch me there every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I really appreciate you guys being there for that as well. Thank you guys for that. Today, we will be talking about the 5 takeaways that I had from week 4 of the college football season. Guys, it is going fast. We are a third of the way through the season. It sucks to say that, but embrace the season while it's here. It's awesome that we have games every Saturday for the next, at least 3 months now. But still, it's sad to hear that. That's just 3 months now instead of 4. But my number one takeaway this weekend for the SEC was Brian Kelly is not the long-term answer for LSU. UCLA came into this game underdogs by, I believe, 21 to 21.5 points, wherever you got your line. LSU does win the game, but it doesn't look as good as it should. UCLA put up 17 points in this game, guys. UCLA put up 17 points in this game. Anyone have a guess as to how many points Hawaii put up on UCLA, or how many points UCLA scored on Hawaii? They scored 16. They scored one less point versus Hawaii than LSU. Ethan Garbers is not a good quarterback, guys. He's not a good quarterback at all, and he had a decently productive day versus this LSU defense. It's an LSU defense that has gotten slightly better, but there hasn't been that big jump or leap that most LSU fans have wanted. And I told you guys over the offseason you were not going to see that in 1 year. Is Blake Baker a good defensive coordinator in the long term? Do I think he will work out? Yes, I do. Is Bo Davis a great defensive line coach? Yes, I do. My issue is this is Brian Kelly's 3rd year. He should have had some of this stuff figured out by now, and he clearly does not. And I don't think he's going to long-term. I just don't. I don't think he's going to win a national championship at LSU, and that is the goal at LSU. Again, if this is another school in the SEC, a more lower-tier school like a Missouri, who we'll get to in my list here, and you're competing for the playoffs, you're getting to the playoffs, I would endorse Brian Kelly completely. That is not the situation. Ed Orgeron won a national championship at LSU. Les Miles won a national championship at LSU. That is the standard. Those are not good football coaches. If you're asking me how I think they are overall, I think they're average. I think they're like out of a 0 to 10 scale, they're 5 or 6s on the scale of good football coaches. Ed Orgeron was a great recruiter. He got Joe Burrow to LSU, and he was able to win a national championship. Les Miles, yes, he took over for Nick Saban, but still he won a national championship. Brian Kelly is nowhere near winning a national championship. Nowhere near. And it's only going to get worse, guys. Garrett Nussmeier will not be there. Kyron Lacey will not be there. This offensive line that was supposed to be otherworldly will not be there. And then you're telling me you're probably going to have to take a gigantic leap on defense to be able to continue what you're even going to do this year, which I think you're going to go probably 9-3. I do not see it long-term. I don't think it was a good cultural fit to begin with. And then he had to fake the accent. I don't understand that. That doesn't show much confidence to me. And then just in general, he's not getting results on the field right now. And I don't see them coming long-term. So to me, if the standard at LSU is a national championship, which I have been told by LSU fans it is, Brian Kelly is not your long-term solution. In my opinion, if they go 9-3 this year, cast a fishing line, see what you catch. See who will take this job, who you think will be better than Brian Kelly. Because right now, guys, I was high on Brian Kelly. I had him as the 3rd best coach coming into the season in the SEC. He's no longer that. And Mark and I talked about this. Brian Kelly had the lowest floor of any coach because look at the other coaches that had success at LSU. Brian Kelly's not going to have a national championship. It's just not going to happen. So in my opinion, cut bait here, end it, find someone else. That is my number one takeaway from that LSU-UCLA game this week. On to number 2. Tennessee is a national title contender. Tennessee up until this point has played Chattanooga, Kent State, and then I forget their first game of the season. And then they went and played Oklahoma. This was their first real test on the road in Norman, and they passed. Was the offense spectacular? No. You put up 23 points because you got a safety. Was the defense very good? Yes, it was. And that's what I wanted to see. Do I think Oklahoma is a great offensive team? No. But they are worlds better than the teams you have faced so far. And North Carolina State, was the other team. Even North Carolina State, we see how fraudulent that team is. That's a team I was completely wrong on. That's a team I had in the college football playoff. I was dead wrong there. But Oklahoma is probably 2 steps up from North Carolina State. Do I think Oklahoma's a college football playoff team? Absolutely not. Do I think they're like the 30th best team in the country? Yes. And to me, you proved you can compete on the road with a good, solid football team, a team that's probably going to be an 8-4 football team. You played phenomenal defense. Again, not a great offense you played, but still, you flew around. You were physical. That one hit on Javonte Barnes going down the sideline that they laid, wow, that was some big boy football. Very impressive for Tennessee on the defensive side of the ball. Nico is not where people want him to be. And when I say that, I think people take it as an insult. It's not an insult. The talent is there. He's going to be elite if he makes the progressions I think he's capable of making, especially under Josh Heupel, who's an offensive guru, in my opinion. He's probably a top 5 to 6 offensive mind in college football. I think if he does that, he can be elite. Right now, he's not. You see the raw talent and athletic ability, and you want him to be elite. Right now, he's not. He's a good quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. He can win a national title with this team. This team is ready because the defense and running game with Dylan Sampson is solid enough. This team all around is a good, solid football team, and that's what came into my mind when I watched them play versus Oklahoma. Was it like overly impressive? No. But it was good enough to where I could imagine them at the end of the season holding up that national championship trophy. I think there's one of 5 teams right now in the SEC I could see winning a national championship. It's them, it's Texas, it's Georgia, it's Alabama, and it's Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is last for me. Ole Miss kind of has to pass that similar test that I saw Tennessee pass. If Ole Miss passed that, I'll elevate them up into more of those 4. I think, and I'm already going to take it back. I think Ole Miss is on that tier right below. I need to see 1 or 2 games just like Tennessee just had on the road versus a solid opponent. And when you don't have your A game on offense, can your defense carry you? If they do that, they're legitimate there. But Tennessee for sure is. Tennessee can win a national championship. Congratulations, Vol Nation. You are officially back. It's been a very long time, just like it has for my Texas Longhorns, but you can win a national championship this year. Number 3. So I was big on this, but I wasn't as big as my boy Tyler, and we're going to get to brag on Tuesday. We're going to have a where you were right, where you were wrong. He was way right on this. He said Vanderbilt would cover that 21-point spread. I believe he said he put some money on the money line, and it almost worked. Vanderbilt almost won that game in overtime. I was low on Mizzou as is. He's even lower. So he's even more correct on this or I think he would agree with me on this as well. I had Mizzou going into the season at 8-4. The reason I had them going into the season at 8-4 is because you lost a lot on defense. You lost your defensive coordinator. And I like Brady Cook, but he's way closer to Max Duggan than he is like a Quinn Ewers, Shadur Sanders, Carson Beck. He is not anywhere near that category. He is way closer to Max Duggan level. I like Luther Burden. I like Theo Weiss. I take it back. I love Luther Burden. I like Theo Weiss. But overall, I just didn't love this team. I didn't love the chemistry or mold of this team, how it was built. They don't give the ball enough to Luther Burden. You have the best wide receiver in college football. You need to force feed the ball to him. Get it in his hands. I don't care how it is, reverses, sweeps, screens. Get the ball in his hands. He was struggling to get the ball versus Vanderbilt. He was struggling to get the ball versus Boston College. That should not be a problem. And then I think this is the biggest reason I came away with Missouri is overrated. I think their defense is okay. It's not great. The secondary is definitely questionable in my opinion. The defense overall is a question mark. It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not like it was last year. And that's why I had Missouri going 8-4 into the season. And by the way, 8-4 would be an abysmal season for Missouri because they have a bad schedule. And when I say bad schedule, I mean in the context of the SEC. Overall, it's not a bad schedule if you look through the 133 teams. But when we're talking SEC, it is a bad schedule. And that's why I think Missouri is overrated. They did not play well versus a Vanderbilt team that I think is still probably the 3rd or 4th worst team in the SEC. Mississippi State is clearly the worst team. After that, it's a debate between like 3 or 4 teams for that last spot. And I think Vanderbilt's in that category. You should win that game by, even on an off day, you should win that game by 14 plus points. And they couldn't. They had to go into overtime to beat Vanderbilt. And is this a god-awful Vanderbilt team like 4 or 5 years ago? No. But are they still a bad football team? Yes. They're going to win at most 4 games. At home, you should win this game by 14 plus points. Missouri is not a playoff team. They're not a national contending team. They're they're in that category of Oklahoma. I think they're a top 30 team, but they've just been built up to the fact that they should be competing for an SEC championship. They should be competing for a playoff spot. They should be competing for a national championship, and they're not. And if your argument is the schedule, then that's fine, but that is the only argument you can have. The team as a whole, if they played like an Oklahoma schedule, a Florida schedule, they'd probably be like a 6-6 football team. They're not that good, guys. I'm sorry to say that. They had a phenomenal year last year, but a team like Missouri does not reload like a team like Texas, like a team like Georgia, like a team like Alabama, a team like Ohio State. They don't reload like that. They don't recruit well enough to reload that like that. And they do. And then if you don't recruit that well, do you have that dude at quarterback? You have a solid quarterback, but you don't have that dude. So number 3 for me is Missouri is overrated, not a national championship contender, not a college football playoff contender. I predicted that going into the season. This week versus Vanderbilt cemented that for me. Number 4, Mississippi State is old Vandy bad. And we just talked about Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt used to be the laughing stock of the SEC, just like Kansas were in the conference we just left in the Big 12. Neither team is no longer that. Kansas is better than Vanderbilt, obviously, but Vanderbilt has made strides. They're a decent team. Mississippi State is that bad, guys. Mississippi State right now on defense is 100 in almost any category you want to look at. Go to teamrankings.com, check it out. They are god-awful on defense. Not good at all. On offense, they're 85th in points per game and 82nd in yards per play. I questioned the Jeff Lebby hire. I think he's an okay offensive coordinator. I think he's very gimmicky. I think if you're used to stopping an up-tempo offense, you can easily stop him because honestly, that's what gets most of these teams is the up-tempo style. It's not the play calling. I think he'll be fired rather quickly. I do not think he will be here more than 3 years at Mississippi State. I thought it was a bad hire. I think this is just cementing it. Do I think this roster is bad? Yes. Do I think that's partially his fault? Yes. Do I think he could possibly make upgrades? Yes. But the problem is, do I see enough upgrades where I think a team that's probably going to end up going 1-11 or 2-10 is able to win 5 or 6 games next year and then 7 or 8 the year after? No, I do not. I think they'll probably end up going 2-10 this year. They'll probably end up going 3-9 or 4-8, and they'll end up going 4-8 or 5-7 the next year. And sorry, that is not good enough. Mississippi State should be able to win. It should be a cycle school. And what I mean by that is, your first 3 years of your recruiting class, you should be like 6-6, 7-5, 7-5, or 8-4 your third year, and then try to compete for an SEC championship. Honestly, I think that's what they can be. I think South Carolina falls in that category as well. I think in that 4th year, if you get the right recruiting class, you can end up being 9-3, 10-2, and maybe in a down year in the SEC, sneak into the SEC championship game. They're not going to be that under Jeff Lebby. They're just not. I don't believe it. I never believed it. I don't like the hire. And they're just abysmal, guys. I mean, he lost 45-28 versus a Florida team that I think is legitimately quit. I picked Mississippi State in this game to cover the spread of 6 points because I'm pretty sure Vegas baked that into the line as well. Florida looked like they had quit versus Texas A&M. And you let a team that I think has legitimately quit beat you by 17 points at home. On top of that, the week before, you lost to Toledo by 24 points. Let me repeat that. Mississippi State at home with all those cowbells ringing lost to Toledo by 24 points. It's unacceptable. It should not be happening. And the worst SEC team should never lose to the best MAC team. And Toledo this year is not even the best MAC team. That belongs to Bowling Green. So it does not make any sense to me. It was a bad hire to begin with. It's only going to look worse. And they are going to be terrible guys this year. To read off the rest of their schedule, they play my Longhorns, who are favored by 38 points versus Mississippi State. I know you lost Blake Shapen. He's worth maybe 3 to 5 points. This line's probably 33 or 32 or 34 with Blake Shapen. It's 38, guys. That is bad. Bad. Colorado State was only 41, so on a neutral field, you'd only be favored by Colorado State probably by 5 or 6 points. It's bad. And then you play Georgia, you play A&M, you play Arkansas, you play UMass, you play Tennessee, you play Ole Miss. At best, you're 3-9. At best. At worst, you're 1-11. UMass, I don't know how bad UMass is. Usually they're pretty bad. I think you do end up winning that game. I think you're probably 2-10. At best, 3-9. At absolute worst, if UMass is actually pretty good this year, you're 1-11. That is so bad. And I predicted 3-9, I believe. So I wouldn't be too far off either way. Number 5, and my last takeaway from my 5 takeaways of week 4 of the SEC, Brent Venables made a mistake. So this has been not a theme, but a talking point of Texas fans. You ran Dillon Gabriel out of town. You chose Dillon Gabriel over Jackson Arnold. The reason was you told your fan base, you told college football that Jackson Arnold had a higher ceiling than Dillon Gabriel. I'd like to ask where that ceiling is. Does it exist? Right now, I don't see a ceiling. You know why? Because it's collapsed in on your damn team. That's how bad they have been, guys. They have not been good. He has not been good. 61.4% completion percentage in his career, 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I had the argument multiple times with Oklahoma fans, this guy's a turnover machine. It is really hard to change that. I really think that's a gene people with quarterback play. When they turn the ball over, that's really hard to get rid of. See Brett Favre, see Jameis Winston, see guys like that. When that is baked into the cake of a human being, you can't change it. And this guy's not going to be able to change it. He's bad at reading defenses. For whatever reason, he either can't read defenses or his eyes are just all over the place and he doesn't understand what he's looking at. I don't know what the case is. That first interception he threw versus Tennessee into triple coverage made no sense. I don't know where he was going with the football. Just in general, I have not been impressed with him since the Arizona game. Do I think he has great arm talent? Yes. Do I think he's got a pretty big arm, honestly? Yes. Does that make you a good quarterback or capable of playing the position at an elite level, especially at a school like Oklahoma? Absolutely not. That is why when I hear Elite 11, he won Elite 11. Who gives a shit? That is in shorts. You're not getting hit. All it shows is arm talent. It doesn't show your knowledge or understanding to be able to play the game. Clearly, he does not have that right now. We'll see if he ever has that. And I said, this just speeds up Brent Venables' clock. All he did was put the clock and put it back on himself. That's all he did here, guys. If Dillon Gabriel was still here, there would have been a built-in floor for this team, and they probably would have been at worst 8-4. At worst, they 8-4 to 9-3, 10-2 is what I think they probably want with Dillon Gabriel. And I don't even really like Dillon Gabriel. I think he's highly overrated, but he's definitely better than Jackson Arnold. Now what you've done is you've inserted Jackson Arnold. It has not worked out. Now you're going to be throwing freshman Michael Hawkins right into the mix. And we'll see what happens, because if he doesn't play well, then you're stuck. You're done. And this team's probably 6-6 or 7-5 or 5-7. And if that happens, guys, next year's make it or break it for Brent Venables. And you have the exact same schedule. The only difference is you flip. If you played at home this year versus this team, you play on the road. If you played on the road, you play at home. He made a mistake, guys. He really did. I never understood the decision. Just pay Jackson Arnold more and tell him to wait another year. That's what they should have done. And could it have been Jeff Lebby leaves, so Dillon Gabriel leaves? Absolutely. And if that is the reason, then fine. I am wrong. But if that's not the reason, like let's say that was 80% of the reason, there was still a 20% outside shot and they just didn't sit down and convince him to stay at Oklahoma, shame on you. Shame on you, because you just betrayed your fan base here. You betrayed what you could have been this year. Instead, you put in Jackson Arnold because you said, oh, he's a 5-star. He's got a higher ceiling. We're not going to be able to keep him. He'll probably transfer if he doesn't sit. Working out for Texas, guys. It's working out for Texas. Arch Manning's sitting. We're going to be set up for next year. What are you guys going to be set up for next year? Hell, what are you going to be set up for this year? So to all those Oklahoma fans, thank you. Because, by the way, on the SEC show, I'm going to dive deep into them because they were just dumb with some of the stuff they had to say. I'll leave it at that. But again, guys, this has been a special edition of the top 5 takeaways from week 4 of the SEC. I really appreciate you guys being here. Again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it, guys. And again, join Tyler and I at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, and join me for Texas live at 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, the 23rd, every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Matthew Miller is your host. And Tuesday, SEC show at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you enjoyed the content.